All right. What was Super Bowl? What was it?
52?
52?
52.
L-I-I, right? I was never a Super Bowl guy. So
Yeah.
never a football guy.
I'm never a Roman numeral guy, so I was like, the hell's an L? Okay, cool.
What the fuck is an L? I don't know. You can ask the Patriots that.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
That was great.
That was pretty good.
That was great. Oh my gosh. Moment of silence for Tom Brady.
Right.
Okay.
So Super Bowl was cool. Eagles won. That's a win there. It's Black History Month, and so we're in the month of February, and we want to do this show kind of just talking about, Black Lives Matter, talk a little bit about, Kaepernick and, kind of why he took a knee for police brutality. First thing I want to talk about, though, is kind of just like racial injustice, and that just kind of has to do with more with like policemen. Any of you guys ever like gone through that at all?
You go about yourself. Anything for you?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I grew up Lincoln Village, part of Sacramento. Sacramento's a cool town, for most people. It's not much of a problem, but like being in specifically places like Rancho Cordova, lower income places. Growing up as a kid, you see a lot of nitty gritty stuff. I've always had positive outlook on the police, so I never really had a problem with them, because I was just kind of raised to be a real stuck up kind of two-shoes kind of kid. But personally, I never had any systemic problems. It's mostly just kind of teasing and bully stuff. But personally, I've only had clean record with the police. So I'm pretty happy. But I'm from a Latino background, so. No,
it makes sense. And I'm half black, half Mexican, and but my pigmentation definitely they wouldn't say, well, he must be half black, half Mexican. They're just gonna say he's black, and that's kind of how I got looked at. I mean, I've had nothing but police altercations in my life, and that's always seems to be the divide when it comes to talking to people about it, because I've literally. Every single time there's a police officer, it seems like I always get in some type of altercation with it. It's crazy, and I have a complete clean record. I have no record whatsoever. Good citizens. I was a corrections officer at one point.
Yeah.
Was a good citizen, but it's just the fact that I don't know what it is. If it's maybe the media, something where when a cop sees me, he either has to question me more or he has to take things to the next level on certain situations. Mm-hmm. Even though, and because at first when it happened to me, I thought, well, maybe it's just. Maybe I'm overthinking. I'm just trying to play the black card. Maybe it's just me, right? Because I grew up in a town where I was the only black kid. There was just, it is Safford, Arizona, Southeast. There's I was the only black kid in that whole school. And that's about 500 students of a 2A school. And I literally, anytime we'd have situations, I'd be with like 8 of my friends who were all, white and a mix of Mexicans too. But it was always me kind of getting pulled aside and questioned more. Always me that they would come after me. The worst thing though was probably that happened here in Roseville. Those are the craziest cops ever.
For real?
Yeah. I actually had a gun pulled out on me.
No
Never had
way,
that happen
dude.
before.
What happened?
I basically was driving to go to Jack in the Box late at night. I won't say what I was doing, but I was, it's late at night. Just came back from the club. So I was driving, This
is like what, 1 in the morning? Like how late?
This is actually about 2:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And so I'd actually, driven.
You were clubbing?
Yeah, I was clubbing.
Yeah.
I went, I guess I just hit the bump too hard. And the officer... I thought I passed by a construction site. It wasn't. That was actually a DUI checkpoint. Oh, shit. But when he came, the cool part is the cop actually did save me because I didn't have to go through there. But he had pulled me over and he told me to, get out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And when he did, he just freaked out. I guess just because I drove a small car, he just thought I was a tiny guy.
And then he saw this black guy get out, and he was like,
better
pull my gun out.
His bottom lip started, getting crazy, and pulled his gun out. Now, he didn't point it at me, but he did pull it out.
That's an inferiority complex between his legs, man.
I don't know. what it was.
So obviously, I'm not black,
Yeah,
obviously.
Obviously. But
we want to put that on record. You ain't
put that on the record, just to let y'all know. But the thing is, you always hear the idea that, as long as you comply, nothing wrong happens. But a lot of people don't have a perspective of a black person, or like what it's like. Because you're saying you're an outstanding citizen. You do your things. You go to school. You do your stuff right. You work. And you're just enjoying a night out. And for some reason, this cop is, makes these assumptions about you, Mm-hmm. Or it's like, the argument is obviously, just keep your hands to yourself, keep your hands out in the open, yes sir, no sir, yada yada yada, and things shouldn't go wrong at all. Nobody should die. But what they don't know, or what they don't understand is that, you're being predisposed to, having some sort of bias against you. You step out of the car. If you were a little old white lady, he probably wouldn't have thought much about it. But then he saw the beard, and you're getting up out of your car, and the guy went for the gun, So
that's no old white lady.
That's no old white
lady. That's a tall black man.
Because, I totally agree, when it comes to, situations like that, the cops are going to have more biases, according to certain, certain ideas, certain peoples, they got predispositions. You know, they got ideas about who does what and when and where. You know, so this cop's out here like 2 a.m. You know, expecting people to be drunk in the first place. You feel me? That's what he's doing.
That is because 2:30 is the prime time for when people are going to leave, and people are going to go out, and when they're coming back from clubbing, they are going to be drinking and driving because there's always going to be those kind of people out there. And I'm not going to assume, but judged by how you made what you said in your story, you drove past the DUI checkpoint and you hit a curb and it kind of shook the car. That's could have given him a perspective. Maybe this guy's.
Oh no, it was a regular like where you go in. The way they built it. If you went there now, you'll do the same thing. It's just the way it's made. You'll hit it. Yeah. You'll hit this regular drive-in, and they just made it too high. Yeah. So your car will automatically go up if you're going over 5 miles.
So you would say that the cop though pulling you over. Mm-hmm. Once he saw who you were, like your figure and your skin, that he immediately had something else go off in his head. And that's why he went for the gun. And
I think what it is, too, if it wasn't even just a little bit of that, I already knew it was going to be bad just because of the tone of my skin. Because, for instance, like, so I'll tell some of my white friends that are just like, you know, we'll drive into an apartment complex. Because one time this happened, we drove in, right? And there was about 8 cops in there. What the hell? And immediately, in my head, I heard what he said. He was like, "Oh, I wonder what's going on, man. I wonder if we can help. It's like a situation." And then me, I was like,
"Shit.
Oh, shit. I need to think of an alibi. I need to think of, like, how I can get out of a situation because they're going to come to me. They're going to question me.
Questions like, where you been?
What have I been doing? Like, oh, my gosh. Like, I'm actually fearful while he wasn't.
Was this here in Placerville as well?
Citrus Heights, yeah.
Citrus Heights, so. Man. And that's like high-end, not high-end, but, like, higher income, you know? It's a nicer neighborhood. So
upper middle class.
Upper middle class. It's not like where I grew up. I grew up, it's just like, you used to hear gunshots every night where I woke up, man. But I never had anything negative. You hear a chopper.
I live down the street from you.
You live, like, across the highway from me.
I do not live across the highway from you.
You can hear choppers, though, every night, gunshots. But that was, like, 10 years ago, you know? And but even that never had any negative issues, you know?
I dropped you off last week and there was gunshots.
Let's not talk about my house like that, okay? But what about yourself, man? You ever had a problem?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Like I mentioned before, you asked me where I was from. So I grew up in, Richmond, California, which is in the Bay Area. Yeah. I've had multiple, and I'm not even all black, even though I consider myself black no matter what, because that mixture is very, very strong, especially dealing with that type of ethnicity. Yeah. But just speaking on, I want to keep it more current. He speaks about. You talked about perspective. It's not necessarily perspective when it's dealing with blacks. It's the reality. Yeah. The perspective is put on to basically show that, okay, that only happens to you, and then that's okay. And that's just another way to set the narrative to say that it's okay. Yeah. And I think that's the way the media positions it. So this only happens for this set of folks, and it's their problem. So and a problem that they may create. So I think that's the issue.
So you're saying that it's not only just like that it happens, but we keep letting it be the case, like the media and certain people just continue believing, oh, well, this just happens because.
Well, it's the complex of, in general, black folks need to pick themselves up by their own bootstraps, and to me that's nonsensical. Mm-hmm. When you look at the history, you have to understand, and I don't want to make this necessarily a history lesson, but for us to know the future and predict it, you're going to have to look back. Yeah. And you need to understand that. And a lot of people who look at it from the outside, who may not know, who may be a little bit more ignorant in the situation, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, you can always change that. It's always dealing with the fact that, 1965, Civil Rights Movement. So it's only been 50-odd years
not that long.
Since that moment. And it's the narrative that's pushed in the media that black folks should basically been over slavery or any type of segregation or any type of Jim Crow laws or any type of, anti-voting suppressing laws, things like that, when that was going on for, more than half a century, that time, and then be over it in 50 years.
Oh, no, you're right. It's not that you just forget,
And there's always been a certain dynamic when it deals with authorities and blacks. And that goes all the way back to the plantation owner and blacks. And because you have to understand that when blacks were freed in 1865, and that's not even when they were freed, that was the Immaculate Proclamation. Yeah. That's why that's why we celebrate Juneteenth and not that, because they weren't necessarily you guys can go. Yeah. That's not the way it works.
They still kept them on the plantation for like rent control and stuff. They were stuck there either way.
And then what ended up happening is when they were freed, but then being a nomad was against the law. So now basically you just got sent back to the plantation or you were just freed from.
And
now you're forced back into servitude again, even though you were technically free.
And that's when the 15th and... No, which one was the Emancipation? Was that 13th?
13th.
And then 14th and 15th were the right to vote, and then...
the 13th was...
But then you have to consider, you only consider 2/3 of a person.
Exactly.
So you weren't even a full vote.
It's a 3/5 compromise.
So you don't... When you look at it from that perspective, there's a big dichotomy between that. And dealing with myself, like, just to give a specific situation, you know, and this is in SAC. And I was working at a job where I worked late. You know, I get off at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I just started the job, so I hadn't gotten a uniform yet. So I'm loading trucks.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a hoodie, and I'm pulling in. I'm literally a block from my house.
Yeah. And you're in this truck, or are you like in your own
car?
No.
No. I'm in my own car. I'm coming home.
Yeah, but you got the hoodie on. It's cold.
No, my hoodie's not on. My hoodie's on my body. My hoodie's not on my head.
Okay.
But I'm just driving in my car. And I'm about to make a left, and then I see this cop, and I see headlights. So I'm like, all right, so I just turn like I'm supposed to turn.
Like another person.
And I can see in the rear view, he circles around, hits the lights, pulls me over. And there's 6 cop cars.
6?
So, pulls up, asks me, where I'm coming from. I said, work. And he said, well, where do you work? And I told him where I work. And he said, well, we heard these gunshots and you were the first car we saw. So then that's when he tried to ask me to get out the car and all of that, wanted to search the car, which I told him he couldn't.
Which you have the right to deny because you have no, reason to hide.
And that's when he got upset. He said, well, what do you have to hide? I said, I don't have nothing to hide. I said, I just don't have to allow you to search my car. And he said, well, you say you're coming from work. You don't look like you're dressed from work. I said, well, I just started the job. And I said, this is the uniform I'm wearing. I said, you can see I got steel-toe boots on. This is where we work. And I got jeans on. And he asked me if I'm a Crip because I had a blue T-shirt under that. and I said, no.
Why would you assume that?
But I'm just, I'm talking to him. And at this point, he wants to, search me. And I said, no. I said, and he said, well, where do you live? Right around the corner. I said, you've already checked my license and you can look it up. It's literally, I can walk there right now. And so he ends up letting me go because, they had nothing. But then what ticked him off more was probably my response after was, it really took, because you guys at this board that took 6 cars.
And you would say that, like, you forgot you were black until they pulled you over.
And I didn't even bring up race because to me it went without saying.
Yeah, you already knew.
And I think that, and it could have been also the type of car. I had a 91 Oldsmobile, and so they're probably looking at it from that perspective. Yeah. I didn't hear any gunshots, and my radio wasn't even on, so I would have heard something. So I think there was BS. Mm-hmm. But just to give that idea, that was the first night. The very next night, I get pulled over by the very same cop. Uh-huh. Same car. Now I'm probably 3 blocks away from my house.
Same dudes?
Same dude, same time, man. Same cop. And he says that he couldn't see he said my license plate light was out. And I said, well, you mind if I get out the car and check myself? And he didn't want to let me get out and check.
So now he doesn't want you to get out.
So I'm like, okay, so what's the violation for that? And he said, well, it's a fix-it ticket. I said, okay, well, there's O'Reilly's just down the street, and I'll take care of that in the morning. Is there anything else? And he said, well, you mind if we search your car? Try to go that again. And I said, no. I said, I'm going to give you the same answer I gave you last night. So basically, doesn't have anything. I go home. My license plate light is not out.
Yeah. That's not saying. You mentioned earlier the whole pull your black folks pulling stuff by the bootstraps. You might have I real quick, but I totally agree with that sentiment where it's like it's not that simple, and there's a certain extent where like I believe that there are certain people out there they're in certain situations because they got themselves in there, and it could be anybody, you can be white, you can be black, you can be Asian. If you're stuck in like a crack den, or you got something going on, there's some way for yourself to at least try to struggle your way out. There's a way to do it, but there's a certain point where there's certain stereotypes or just things in society or just I don't want to say institutional stuff, but that's more like legal stuff. But like just predisposed ideas that people have that you can't avoid no matter what. Like when you guys are getting pulled over, like for me, there was a lot of times myself where I didn't realize I was brown until some shit happened, and I was like, oh shit, I'm brown. Because I forget about that shit. I forget that I'm brown. I live my day every day. Like I don't care who I am. I just live my day normally, And then something will come up that'll like just you're Mexican, bro. I'm like, oh shit, I am Mexican. You know, because I live my day by day, however I like to live it. But there are certain moments and certain times where something, not always necessarily negative, but it can be as bad as being pulled over with a gun nearly drawn on you. You know, when you forget that that's the case, and that, I think that's the biggest problem. You know, some people, you know, try to construe it, try to make it like non-existent, but you have to accept the fact and you know acknowledge the fact that that's there. Even for people that are mixed. I mean, this dude, you're half Puerto Rican, half white, right?
See,
and he gets stuff all the time. He himself gets stuff all the time. You know, I mean, you get the school shooter stuff all the time, but like because you're half Puerto Rican, he gets the school shooter stuff.
Honestly, I got arrested.
This
in
dude,
the 8th grade.
Long story short,
cop.
he brought up like
I'll actually tell the story.
Yeah, go for it. Because this is this dude's fault. Okay, this is his fault. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh my God.
See,
go for it.
Ironically, I'm the whitest one here, but I'm the one who's actually been arrested, have a record and everything like that. Which you hear your guys' story about this. You know, you guys had this. I've actually had altercations with police officers before where I've actually been arrested.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
So where were you? How old were you? And why were you arrested? Give me those 3 points. Where were you? Why were you arrested?
I was at Albert Einstein Middle School. I was in the 8th grade.
Okay.
We went to middle school together. You know this.
Yeah, but why were you arrested?
Okay,
Or
so
detained?
a couple months before, there
You don't like this.
were
Go for it.
there were these
I'm all is.
black kids that lived down the street from me that I was friends with. And they came over one day and saw that me and my friend were playing my original Xbox in my garage. They came in and saw that my dad had 2 airsoft guns, and they were a Glock 19 and a Glock 21. Well, they asked to borrow my game, a game of mine, so I went inside to go give it to them because I was a nice kid. They ended up stealing the guns, and then they never gave back my game, which is ironic. And they immediately went to the elementary school that was directly located behind my house, and started pointing the guns at the kids, robbing them of their lunch money. And
His middle school.
Yeah, and it got traced back to me because those were my those were my dad's and my guns. A couple months later, I was telling my buddy Max about it. A guy I've known since kindergarten. He goes, "Oh, I have an airsoft gun I'm trying to sell. Would you like to buy it?" Like, if you give it to me, I can take it to my dad and see if he wants to buy it. He gives it to me. I go to my dad, and he says it's like a $20 piece of junk, so just give it back. So the next day, I go take it back to my buddy Max. Me being the goody two shoes that I was, I'm just trying to be a good kid. I'm letting my friends know, hey, this isn't real. This is Max. I'm just giving it back to him.
But
there was this girl named, actually I don't remember her name, but she was dating my friend Zach.
okay.
And she hated me. So she walked up to the police officer on campus and told the cop that I was robbing students at gunpoint for their money. And my buddy Michael runs up to me and tells me that's what's going on. So me ditching the gun and giving it back to him so he throws it in the garbage can. It was like I was.
The thing is, he brought the gun to school, bro. He brought
the
gun to school.
I didn't.
He brought it to school.
I didn't think it was a big deal. You know why? Because I was a stupid kid.
Yeah, but
I was a stupid good at teachers. And as soon as they brought me in, I confessed everything. I was like, I have no ammo for this. I don't have gas. It doesn't work. I thought, I had explained the situation before. And the cop was like, you have the right to remain silent. I got charges put against me. I had to go to court. I had to get all that sort of stuff done.
The thing, though.
People, throughout the rest of the year, they thought I was going to shoot up the school.
And it's not a joke anymore, though. Because you guys heard about the 12-year-old girl, right?
No.
That 12-year-old girl, last week, a 12-year-old girl went up to a school in Los Angeles and shot up the school. Killed a kid, injured another one. A 12-year-old girl. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, man. And it's